Imagine a moonless night in the heart of the Chilean Central Valley, where the air is thick with the scent of eucalyptus and the unsettling silence of a countryside that has suddenly gone mute. You are a farmer, a man whose life is measured in the health of his livestock, but tonight, you feel a primal chill that no hearth fire can warm. You step into your corral and find a scene of quiet, clinical horror, dozens of sheep lying motionless, their bodies intact, their wool unstained by a struggle, yet every single drop of blood has been vacuumed from their veins through 2 surgical punctures in the neck. This wasn't a puma, and it wasn't a pack of wild dogs. This was something that defied the laws of biology and birthed a wave of mass hysteria that would grip an entire nation for years. Before we dive into the dark heart of the Chupacabra legend that brought Chile to its knees, I want to know, where are you watching from tonight? Drop your location in the comments, because what you're about to hear might make you want to lock your doors, no matter where in the world you are. The year was 2000, and while the rest of the world was recovering from the Y2K scare, the people of Calama, a mining city nestled in the harsh Atacama Desert, were waking up to a much more tangible nightmare. It began with the goats, sturdy, resilient animals found dead in heaps, their eyes wide with a terror that seemed frozen in time. Unlike a coyote or a mountain lion, which tears flesh and scatters bone, this predator left the meat untouched. It wanted only the life force, the red gold of the veins. As the sun rose over the jagged Andean peaks, the whispers began to spread through the dusty streets like a contagion. They called it the Chupacabra, the goatsucker, a name whispered in hushed tones across Puerto Rico years prior, but here in Chile, the beast had evolved into something far more sinister, far more physical, and far more aggressive than anyone could have anticipated. Our story focuses on Mateo, a seasoned rancher near the town of Peril, who dismissed the news reports as city dweller paranoia until the night the wind died down and the dogs stopped barking. Mateo's lead dog, a fierce mastiff that had once fought off a literal mountain lion, was found cowering under a tractor, whimpering in a way that sounded hauntingly human. When Mateo ventured out with his flashlight, the beam cut through the darkness to reveal a creature that shattered his understanding of nature. It stood roughly 4 feet tall, hopping with the gait of a kangaroo but possessing the leathery, obsidian skin of a reptile. Its eyes were not the reflective yellow of a wolf, but a glowing, pulsated crimson that seemed to vibrate with an inner hunger. In that split second of contact, Mateo didn't just see a monster, he felt a psychic pressure, an overwhelming sense of dread that suggested this thing was not a product of evolution, but perhaps a mistake of science or an intruder from another realm entirely. The panic was not confined to the rural farms, it surged into the halls of power in Santiago as the death toll of livestock climbed into the thousands, causing a genuine economic crisis. The Chilean media, sensing a story of a lifetime, began a 24-hour cycle of Chupacabra Watch, featuring blurry VHS footage of strange lights over the Andes and interviews with traumatized witnesses who claimed to have seen the beast levitating over fences. Biologists were dispatched to examine the carcasses, but their findings only deepened the mystery. They found that the holes in the animals' necks were perfectly circular, as if made by a laser or a specialized proboscis, and the lack of rigor mortis in the drained corpses defied every known veterinary textbook. The public began to suspect a cover-up, whispering that the beast was actually a biological experiment gone wrong from a secret military installation hidden deep within the mountains. As the weeks turned into months, the atmosphere in Chile became one of siege, schools were let out early, and the streets of small towns were deserted by dusk. Mateo, driven by a mixture of rage and a need to protect his remaining herd, decided to do what the government wouldn't, he would hunt the beast. He spent his nights perched in the rafters of his barn, armed with a vintage rifle and a heart hardened by the loss of his livelihood. On the 3rd night, the temperature plummeted, and a foul, sulfurous odor filled the air, the signature scent of the Chupacabra. He heard the sound of claws scraping against corrugated metal, a rhythmic, metallic clicking that sounded like a giant insect. As the creature dropped from the roof into the center of the pen, Mateo saw its back was lined with quills that changed color, shifting from a dull gray to a vibrant, warning orange. The confrontation was a blur of shadows and muzzle flashes. Mateo fired, the crack of the rifle echoing across the valley, but the creature moved with a liquid agility that seemed to defy gravity. It didn't run, it flickered, appearing several feet away from where the bullet should have landed. The Chupacabra let out a sound, not a roar or a hiss, but a high-pitched, electronic screech that caused Mateo's ears to bleed and his flashlight lens to shatter. In the darkness, the only thing visible were those two glowing red orbs, moving closer with a terrifying, predatory grace. Mateo felt a cold hand, or claw, brush against his boot, and for a moment, the world went cold. He realized then that he wasn't hunting an animal, he was being toyed with by a predator that possessed an intelligence far beyond anything Earth had ever produced. Miraculously, Mateo survived the encounter when a sudden flash of light, possibly a car's headlights in the distance or something more unexplained, scared the creature back into the tree line. But the Mateo that emerged from that barn was a changed man. He became part of a growing movement of Chupacabra truth-tellers who claimed the beast was part of a larger, darker tapestry involving the Friendship Island myth, a legendary hidden island off the coast of Chile inhabited by tall, technologically advanced beings. The theory was that the Chupacabra was their hound, a biological scout sent to collect genetic material through blood. While the skeptics laughed, the evidence in the fields continued to pile up, tracks that ended abruptly in the middle of open fields, and strange metallic shards found embedded in the hides of surviving animals. The national panic reached a fever pitch when a prominent Chilean politician's estate was targeted, proving that no one was safe, regardless of their status or security. The police were forced to officially respond, but their explanations, that it was all just a series of unusual attacks by rabid minks, were met with literal jeers in the streets. How could a mink drain 20 cows in a single night? The gap between the official narrative and the lived reality of the Chilean people created a vacuum filled by urban legends and a profound sense of vulnerability. People began painting crosses on their barn doors with garlic and salt, reverting to ancient superstitions to fight a monster that looked like it had stepped out of a science fiction film. In the midst of this chaos, a group of independent researchers claimed to have captured a specimen in the northern desert. The footage, though grainy, showed a hairless, blue-gray creature with elongated limbs and a humanoid face that lacked a nose or ears. Before the footage could be verified, the research lab was reportedly raided by men in unmarked black uniforms, and the evidence was confiscated under the guise of national security. This event solidified the belief among Chileans that the Chupacabra was a pawn in a much larger geopolitical or extraterrestrial game. The beast was no longer just a monster, it was a symbol of the unknown, a reminder that despite our modern technology, we are still prey to the mysteries that lurk in the shadows of the earth. Mateo's story reached its climax when he discovered a nest in a cavern deep within the Andes foothills. Inside, he didn't find bones or fur, but a series of smooth, translucent pods that pulsed with a faint, rhythmic light. It looked more like a laboratory than a den. As he explored deeper, he found the remains of his own sheep, but they were being used as organic batteries, hooked up to a network of fungal-like growths that seemed to be extracting more than just blood. He realized the Chupacabra wasn't just eating, it was harvesting. It was a terrifying realization that the livestock of Chile were merely a resource for a process that was entirely alien to human understanding. He barely escaped as the cavern began to hum with a vibration that threatened to collapse the very mountain. By the end of 2000, the sightings began to taper off as mysteriously as they had started. The Chupacabra seemed to vanish back into the ether, leaving behind a nation scarred by fear and a legacy of unanswered questions. The official report finally concluded that mass hysteria fueled by opportunistic predators was the cause, but for the farmers who saw their life's work drained of blood in a matter of seconds, that explanation was an insult. The Chilean Chupacabra remains one of the most documented and terrifying cryptid outbreaks in modern history, a rare moment where a legend stepped out of the folklore books and into the physical world with devastating consequences. To this day, if you travel through the rural outskirts of Peril or the high plains of the Atacama, the old-timers will still warn you about the bad air and the red-eyed ones. They don't use the word Chupacabra anymore, it carries too much weight. They simply tell you to watch your animals and never go out after the dogs stop barking. The legend has become a part of the Chilean psyche, a ghost story that is told not to entertain, but to warn. It serves as a chilling reminder that our world is shared with things we do not understand, and that sometimes, the things that go bump in the night are actually looking for a vein to tap. What makes the Chilean case so unique compared to other Chupacabra sightings is the sheer scale and the consistency of the reports. Across thousands of miles, witnesses who had never met described the exact same creature with the exact same behavioral patterns. This wasn't just a tall tale told around a campfire, it was a collective experience of a predator that defied classification. Even today, cryptozoologists point to the Chilean panic as the gold standard for cryptid evidence, citing the physical traces and the sheer volume of livestock loss that could never be fully explained by known science. As we look back on this period of national panic, we have to ask ourselves, was the chupacabra a physical creature, a psychological projection of a changing society, or something far more complex? Perhaps it was a tulpa, a thought form brought to life by the collective anxiety of a nation, or perhaps it truly was a biological entity from a place we have yet to discover. The mystery remains unsolved, buried in the redacted files of the Chilean military and the fading memories of those who looked into the red eyes of the beast and lived to tell the tale. The story of the blood-drinking beast of Chile is a testament to the power of the unknown. It challenged our perceptions of reality and forced a modern nation to confront a primal terror. Whether it was an alien scout, a genetic experiment, or a demon of the desert, the chupacabra left an indelible mark on the soul of Chile. If you enjoyed this journey into the heart of the Andes' greatest mystery, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's most terrifying legends. And tell me, do you think Mateo really found an alien nest, or was the mountain air playing tricks on his mind? Let's talk about it in the comments. Would you like me to research another South American urban legend for our next documentary?